Such a bad neighborhood.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the council meeting to order. Mayor Roscoe.
Present.
Councilmember Bracken.
Present.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Present.
Councilmember London.
Yes.
Councilmember Sardinius.
Here.
Councilmember Stoner. Councilmember Vasquez. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Bracken, lead us in the pledge, please.
I'm not sure you can do that. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have an invocation from Pastor Dennis Eastling, Key Biscayne Community Church.
Good evening.
Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you. Let us pray together. Well, our gracious God, we would be amiss not to call on you for all of the things that you have allowed us to acquire, all of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us, everything that we own, everything that we think we own, everything that we have is because of your grace and your mercy. And so we say thank you this evening. Father, regardless of religious affiliation, we all know that you have created everything that we know, including us. Lord, I pray that tonight we would, as we come into this season, this holiday season, I pray that we would recognize who you are, what you've done, and what you're going to do through this community. The origin of the word community is commune, that we all habitat together, that we live together, that we love one another, that we serve one another. And this is all an example of something that you have set before us. We pray tonight for wisdom. We pray tonight for discernment. We ask, God, that everything that is done tonight would bring honor to you. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, Pastor.
Next item, Mr. Mayor's brief comments by council.
Yes, I think the majority of us were over at the Lighthouse where tonight begins a year of celebration. It'll be the 200th anniversary of the Lighthouse. And so if all of you can support this great thing, which is the Lighthouse. It's part of our seal. It's part of everything that we believe in, and it's surrounded by natural beauty. So we are blessed to have that lighthouse, and we'd like all of you to continue to support. Any other comments? We welcome our two newbies here, Nancy and Mike. Welcome aboard. Yeah. Tonight's only the 5-hour meeting, so you guys are in good shape.
the early bird special, right?
That's right. Any other comments?
The Hobie Beach, that north linear park opening was very nice and a good opportunity to connect with some of our county friends, which we should leverage and continue. That was good.
Excellent. Okay.
Next.
Madam Clerk?
Next item, Mr. Mayor's public comments.
Okay. Eduardo Vedeci? Vedani.
Translate for him.
Ah,
Thank you, Mayor. Thank
Yes.
you, Council, for to take the opportunity to talk with you.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Eduardo Vedani. I live in Key Biscayne for more than 5 years, and we are
your-
part of a group of
And your address?
My address is 255 Sunrise Drive,
Thank you.
apartment 103. Okay. Well, I'm part of a group of more than 100 people who signed a petition for pickleball fields in Key Biscayne. Around this matter, I try to talk my concepts through Laura, who can help me in the idiom. I'm sorry. Okay. Básicamente, la idea de pedir un sitio a la ciudad de Key Biscayne parte de que estamos en Calusa, un grupo de más de 100 personas jugando pickleball.
Okay, so the request that he's bringing is that they would like a pickleball space because there are more than 100 members playing in Calusa.
Apenas en un horario de 3 horas por día en canchas que son de tenis, y hay una actividad muy fuerte, se integra mucho.
They are in a limited schedule from 9 to 12 every day only.
Hay una integración muy grande de gente en edades desde 10 hasta 75 años.
There's a huge integration of people between ages from 10 to 75, so they have a lot of people there trying to play.
Encontramos que tenemos una interacción muy interesante, es una integración, es un juego que integra mucho a la gente.
They have found that they have been able to integrate the community. It brings people together of all ages.
Fortalece las relaciones interpersonales, el social networks.
There's a social network that strengthens their interpersonal relationships.
Quiero destacar fundamentalmente esta parte, este impacto social y divertido que tiene desde luego, ¿no?
Yes, I want to point out that it has a great social impact.
Saludable, sobre todo saludable
Healthy,
y divertido.
healthy and fun.
¿Ok? Mis compañeros harán una exposición en otros aspectos del proyecto,
My friends will do a presentation on the other aspects of the project.
agradeciéndoles nuevamente la oportunidad que nos han dado.
Thank you again for the opportunity you've given us.
Thank you. Next speaker, Roberto Cortés.
Mayor, Council, hello, good evening. I'm Roberto Cortés, 100 Sunrise, Key Biscayne, been here 35 years. So, yeah, we're here in front of the council to talk about this growing sport. And we met actually with Todd Haverford, the manager for parks. And we've been looking to see if there is space, public space, for putting a couple of courts. We feel the investment is not a great investment. It's pretty much a flat parking space, we call it, with painted, with you're familiar with the pickleball course, I don't have to explain. And so the idea, what I'll talk really quick, is about the two locations that we would like to propose. After looking at several options, we looked at the Domino Park, which is that's by the beach club entrance. That was an idea that Todd suggested, but I think we don't like that space because it's close to Ocean Club, and that you have I think 10 or 12 very big palm trees, which would be extremely expensive to remove. So the two areas that we think that we've actually worked, we worked with an AutoCAD and Photoshop and measuring. We worked hard on this, and I'll send the email to all the members on the PDF as opposed to present it here, that we had it here to show. It's in the Village Green. So the number one spot we think is the northwest side of the Village Green. If you are familiar, obviously, that you have the north and the south. The northwest will be on Fernwood, and you have on the north part the dog park, or the bigger dogs. And then you have the Fresh Market Fernwood site. In that area where used to be a long time ago actually a structure there which is no longer there, we made the measurements, and I think there's around 5,000 square feet on that area, which will be needed about 3,000 square feet to do the two courts. And there's enough buffer from the soccer, so that would be a nice place that they could go. There will be, east and west, the two courts, and that's one area. The other one is on the east side of the same north side of the Village Green. If you've seen all the soccer, when they tied all the soccer goals, okay, right now, there's enough space on the near Crandon side where two courts can go. At the end of the day, we'll send you the PDFs. But what is interesting is a very low impact on trees, very low impact even on the walk road around the park. So that's what we're expecting to see if there is an opportunity for the council to look into it.
Thank you for coming by. Next speaker is Leandro Beer.
Thank you. Hello. Leandro Beer, live in 155 Ocean Lane. Thank you for giving us the time to speak today. Basically, we, as Roberto presented and Eduardo as well, we just make an initial analysis of what the possibilities of bringing this into the village. We don't want it to be an investment for the village, but we want to make a first analysis on the possibilities of how that be. We know that building around 3,000 square foot, which you will need it for that, and I think Roberto mentioned there's a space of about 5,000, will bring it a cost of approximately between $50,000 to $75,000. And we've spoken with about 50 to 75 people that are already actively playing every weekend, and we see many times more than 50 people playing at the same time. It's a sport. I don't know if you have played or not before, but it's a sport that you can play like in probably 15 minutes. There's one game done, so that allows to a big rotation of people playing in there, and we want something to be centered into the island. And we've spoken with many of these and are willing to be contributing to this investment initially, and that's what we wanted to just share. If you are interested to knowing more, besides we share, of course, the drawings for what that will look like, also we can share some financials as well eventually. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Mark Freed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. First of all, I'm very happy to congratulate Councilmember Bracken, Councilmember Stoner, and the reelection of Councilmember Kaplan.
And just
Very
your
well run
your
campaign.
address as well. I'm sorry,
Mark
your name
Freed,
and address.
525 Warren Lane.
Thank you.
This is a new council. This council was elected to lead, to be strategic, to set its goals, and to set its timeline. This council is not bound by any of the decisions of a prior council and is not bound by the whims or the wants of administration. There's a big project. You've got a big plate, and you've got several plates, but the biggest plate you all know about. It's the resiliency project, the drainage project. This project is concerning. During the campaign, I had the opportunity to meet with the manager who explained to me what the project is. I was able to look at and read the village's package on the project. And after that, I did not see a conclusion. I wasn't convinced that there's a conclusion, there's a certainty. And Mayor Rasco acknowledged the uncertainty in his address to the Rotary Club of Key Biscayne in September of this year. During that address, he said, during the Zone 1 project, we will find out what works and what doesn't work. That struck me as, it sounds experimental. I don't want my money spent on an experiment. During the October 23rd, 2024 special council meeting, Councilman Sardinius expounded about the size of ACON, its personnel, its revenue, and its jobs. But moments later, at 55 minutes and 37 seconds into the video of that meeting, he said, How much can we do? Won't know until we do it. And yes, we may fail along the way, and that is a possibility. But we are going to fail, and we are certainly going to learn. In his summary at 59 minutes, 48 seconds, he included, yes, we're going to fail a little bit. Please, when you're voting on spending money, please don't vote on money on a project we're not certain about and that some of us think will fail. I ask on behalf of my family, residents of Key Biscayne, my neighbors, that we not spend money until you are absolutely certain of the successful project and that the success is proven to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Brett Moss.
I thought you were going to get rid of me, huh?
No.
Call me back.
Jeez.
Taking bets. Congratulations to Nancy and Mike and Frank on your re-election. My name is Brett Moss, 152 West Machta Drive, Key Biscayne, Florida. To get used to that. I'm here to speak on pretty much the same item that Mark just spoke about, the stormwater project. I know that there's an independent study that was done. I went back and looked up my notes, and it's interesting that, and I know a lot of you guys are starting to have concerns of the cost and what this might end up being. But looking back at my notes on March 31st, 2023, the construction cost with stormwater, roadways, and utilities was $30 million. That was the construction cost. In January 10th of 2024, it went up to $50.4 million with a 25% contingency, with a total project of the entire island, $331.8 million. On September 4th, it came back to us from the 50.4, went up to $74.8 million. And I know that there was an independent study that was just done, and now we're looking at $80 to $90 million on the exact same drawings. And this should give you guys concern, and I agree with that. And I hear that you guys may have a discussion in a month to maybe talk a little bit in depth of, you know, is this the right design? Is this affordable? And that's fine. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the time is of the essence, and time is cost to make these decisions. We hired AECOM on a work order 3B on April 9th of 2024 for $4.14 million to design from a 30% to a 100% design. And they should finish that between 365 to 550 days. Just so you know, in 365 days, that's costing us $11,342 a day. That's how much that cost us. That's $80,000 a week or $345,000 a month. And on top of that, in October, I believe we also passed $890,000 for Black and Veatch. That takes us up to almost $420,000 a month if we let this continue. Now, if you guys are having doubts, you're having concerns, you guys want to talk about this in January, I think you should have a discussion at least tonight to decide whether you should continue the design and billing to wait one more month, because that's going to cost us another $400,000. So I think you should at least have a discussion and decide whether you should direct the manager to pause Black and Veatch, to pause AECOM, until you guys have a discussion on cost and decide whether this is the right design or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Ceci Sanchez.
Hi, everyone. Ceci Sanchez, 260 Cypress Drive. I come to ask to know more. I try to follow up. I don't understand. We bought, and this is regarding Harbor Park, we bought those lots. Supposedly, it was to be for a park. I was all gung-ho, wonderful, we're gonna get a park, a double lot, not the little Hampton Park, we were gonna get this. Then one day, we had a landscaping committee at the time, I was the chair, Jake Osman, which he was at that time doing public works and building and zoning, can you come to my office? I have something that I want to share with you. So I go to his office and he shows me a little design that he had made regarding the middle, like his idea was to make like a little ditch on the property, like an oval kind of ditch. And he was saying, how about if we designed this park with water, plants that like water, because this is going to be a kind of a water retention area. So suddenly I get to know, or I learned that the park was not a park. The park had they had another ideas for that park. Now, when at least I thought that when we had voted all saying, yes, let's buy the properties, it was supposed to be a park. Then it ended up being that we needed that land to have this contraption size of a bus buried underneath. And that's when Jake said, we need, please, let's not plan to put any landscaping on the adjacent to the house at 20 feet so this thing can go in there. So then we have COVID. Then we had a charrette over, how do you say, video. We all participated. The neighbors on one side came with a design for the park. I remember Steve Simon coming and saying that we needed to do it more open to the public. Then everything kind of went silent. Oh, and now the village is saying that we need to buy another property to put this contraption. I don't understand. Do we know what we're doing? How about at least if you know what's happening, can you share it with us? Because we don't understand and we keep on spending money on things that we really don't know what we're doing. So what is it? Was this a park? We need to put all this contraption. Now it cannot go there. We need to invest $7 million on another property. Could you please enlighten us? Because anyway, the money, where is it coming from? It's going to come from us. Can we all know what's going on? Please, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Polikoff.
Good evening, Michael Polikoff, 151 Crandon Boulevard, apartment 211, a couple of other numbers.
I'm sorry, did you say your address, Mr. Polikoff?
Pardon me?
Did you say your address, Mr. Polikoff? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
I did, 151 Crandon Boulevard.
Thank you, I'm
Key
sorry.
Biscayne, no problem. I work on projects that are partially development, partially oversight, pretty much all over the world. If I sound a little bit woozy right now, I've just gotten back from 18 hours of travel about 2 hours ago. But every time I'm here at home, I come to share and listen to your wisdom in these meetings. But Mayor's busy, I'll wait. Okay. And I have listened to you deliberate. I've listened to everyone in the room deliberate over and over and over and then over about this stormwater project. I can think back, since I've only lived here about 40 years, I can think back to the days of Hurricane Andrew, when I left a car here as I evacuated, and it was the most gorgeous terrarium full of fish when I came back because water couldn't dissipate properly. In terms of engineering, though I don't do the civil aspect, I know of one thing from projects I've seen everywhere in the world. I have heard every complaint when a project was not big enough, proper enough, or sufficient enough to fulfill its expectation. I have yet to hear of a project anywhere in the world where people complained that we built it too well in terms of infrastructure. We have a wonderful engineer on our board. I have a feeling he might agree, even though I've never done anything professional with him. I plead with you, if you want to negotiate costs, some great points that have been brought up by people in the audience time after time, meeting after meeting, negotiate on the costs, not on the scope of what we can put into the project to save this wonderful island when and if even a quasi-disaster will come. Thank you for letting me share this with you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that covers public comments.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is the agenda. Approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, and withdrawals. I would like to pull my minutes if that's okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
and it's pulled. All right. Seeing no changes, the agenda is approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next item is a special presentation, Employee of the Year, Village Manager.
I apologize. Mr. Mayor, did you want to take up the election of the vice mayor?
Yes. Can you tell us what our charter calls for?
Yeah, so at the first meeting following the election, the council is supposed to elect from amongst themselves the position of vice mayor.
Okay, is everybody familiar? Any nominations from the floor here?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Oscar Sardinas as a vice mayor. Mr. Mayor. He's dedicated a lot of time to the community, and I see him all the time here, and I think it's a great opportunity for him to do so.
Is there a second for the motion?
Any other nominations? Discussion?
How are you on parliamentary procedure and Robert's rules?
Time to learn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Merry Christmas.
Hey.
An Employee of the Year presentation given by the village manager.
So, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity, and I just want to recognize, we actually have 3 Employees of the Year this year. And the reason why we have 3, and I want to recognize them as a whole first, and I want to explain to the public why we chose 3, is we selected our part-time employees as our employees of the years. And you all see them every single day working at the community center, whether at the front desk, whether they're your lifeguards, whether you're your folks working in the the room monitors. And I see Larissa back there; she's one of our room monitors. But these are the folks that are working with you every day. They flex during the summer when we have summer camp. They flex when we have other events going on. They're really special people. So, Mayor, I want to recognize them as a whole. But in particular, I want to recognize 3 of them, and I think we have one of them back here. Todd, why don't you bring her up? So the first one is Karen Hardinas. She's our senior front desk attendant. The other one is Jose Felipe Salamanca. He is our lifeguard, and unfortunately we lost him the day after I recognized him as one of our employees to Rasmus School up the road. And then, of course, we have Larissa Flores Guevara here, so we want to recognize her, but we thank you for what you do, and we thank all of our part-time employees. So thank you.
All right. Thank you for your service. That's great.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is Advisory Board Annual Progress Reports. And there are 3 boards that are going to present in January instead, but we have 3 of them here. So the Art and Public Places Board, being represented by Advisory Board member Bill Durham.
Yeah, Bill Durham, 230 Seaview Drive. Nice to be here tonight. Our chairman, Lourdes Joffrey Collette, has a granddaughter that's performing some kind of musical, so she couldn't be here. And so I'm authorized to speak on behalf of the board.
Okay.
And there's 5 kind of points I wanted to make briefly to kind of update you on what we're doing. First of all, we have a new board member, Municia Underhill. who's very experienced in the art world and very connected. She's like a generation or two younger than me, so she's very vibrant and is a really exciting new member to our Art and Public Places Board. And then as a volunteer, we have a kind of an advisor, Melissa Wallen, who was worked for the Dela Cruzes at the Dela Cruz Collection for 14 years and was director of the Dela Cruz Collection for 5 years. So also another person that's very, very experienced, and we're happy to have her kind of coordinating with our board. So first thing I want to talk a little bit about is maintenance. You know, it's kind of exciting to buy artwork, but really what it comes down to, we're learning is we have to maintain this stuff once we put it up. So tomorrow, it just so happens that we're meeting with a contractor. A contract has been signed. You guys authorized the funds. We're going to start working on repairing these 7 Betty Terrazzo plazas that are on Crandon Boulevard. And this is, we've been a long time in the works, but we're really happy that that's going to start soon. The contractor has done similar work at the Miami Airport and the Port of Miami, so very experienced with this type of work. And the artist, Jose Bedia, is going to be on site. If you're repairing artwork, you have to have the artist there to make sure everything's okay. The second item we're working on is the Monaco fountains right out here at the Civic Center Oval. The tiles in the fountain are kind of discolored and need some replacement. So that's on our agenda. It's not going to happen in the next week or two, but we hope to get to it sometime this year. And we're excited about that. As the Civic Center Oval is getting used more and more for community events, which it really wasn't designed for, we're realizing that some of those pavers might have to be replaced. If you notice, a lot of those pavers are broken. They weren't designed for that heavy traffic, I don't think. So that's also going to be part of that project, as I understand it. Harbor Park, we realize that there's 2 footprints kind of on the table, and we want to bring some art into that park in keeping with the residential nature of the area, but we don't have a favorite of those 2 proposals. We can work with either one of those. We're also excited to announce we're going to start an Art in Public Places fund with the Community Foundation. It's not set up yet, but it is going to be where members of the community, if they'd like to help fund some artworks in our community, that they'll have a means to do so. And that'll be set up through the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. Once again, I'd like to thank our village staff liaison, Jeremy, for focusing our attention on the maintenance and helping us make progress in that area. And also Frank Kaplan, who was our council liaison, has been very valuable to our work also. So that's about all I have to say.
Great. Can you mention the names of the people on the committee?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Our chairman is Lourdes Joffrey Collette. Let's see. Dee Dee Moss is a longtime member. Karen Llorente, Diane Grobe, Joni Matheson. There's 7 of us. Myself. I think I'm leaving out one of our members, but off the top of my head, I can't recall.
You mentioned Joni Mathis. You did. Yeah.
Joni Matheson, yeah, Diane Grobe.
That's all I have. Yeah, and you have 1 vacancy.
We have 1 week. Okay, maybe that's it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your report.
The next.
Karen Llorente?
He
that.
said
Yeah, he said that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. The next presentation is from the Education Advisory Board, Estefania Diaz-Balart.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Estefania Diaz-Ballard, and I'm presenting on behalf of the Educational Advisory Board, where I serve as chair. Our board is a new board. It's currently made up of 6 board members with 1 vacant seat right now. We also have, as part of the group, Council Member Oscar Sardinas as our council liaison and Jessica Duret as our staff liaison. As I said, I'm the chair of the board. We also have Sylvia Tarafa as vice chair. We have Laura Teran Zapata, who's here as our secretary. Daisy Diaz, who's the president of the PTSA at the public school, is also on the board. Suzanne Bellucci and Oneida Mendia, who is also here present today. This is a new board. We meet once a month, the second Thursday of every month. We started in August. We meet at 9:30, and everybody is welcome to join. As I said, there is 1 vacant spot, so if anybody's interested, January 9th is our next meeting. So the first order of business as a board. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we sent a presentation. We did the homework. Okay. So actually, here are some photos of what I just went through, of all the members and that vacant seat. And as I said, we kicked it off in August of this year, meeting the second Thursday of every month at 9:30 at the Village Hall. And if anybody wants to join, next meeting is January 9th. We did get started right away in August, so all the members, all the board members read the compact, and we realized that an area of opportunity is unique abilities in the schools, just because we didn't see that in the compact, and so we want to really support families in the village that may have family members and kids in need of unique ability services in the school. So we've right away met with Ms. Pina at KBK 8, as well as Dr. Wood at MAST. We've learned about the services currently being offered at the schools. We also have had great meetings with the Miami-Dade school representatives, Miami-Dade County school representatives. The board chair, Ms. Maritere Rojas, was even present in our last meeting last week, so we had a great turnout. Very proud of the work that we've been doing in the short amount of time. We realize, though, that in order to move, whatever ideas we have forward, we need data. So we're actually currently working on coming up with questions that we can put in a survey and that can be sent out to the community. I believe there is a database of about 8,000 people that we're able to reach. Once we have that data, then we're able to really communicate based on the actual needs of the community. We're able to put some plans in place and then put together a strategy, a communication strategy to share that with the community of what services are available, what the processes are, if anybody needs to apply. Additionally, some of the other priorities that we've identified in the short amount of time are enrollment in the middle school for the KBK 8. We believe there's a big opportunity there for us to make an impact, as well as safety across the board in the schools that are serving the Key Biscayne community as a whole. So with that, we thank you. As I said, we have an open vacancy, so we welcome anybody that's interested to either reach out to me, to anybody on the board, or to join the next meeting, January 9th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Your report.
Next advisory board presentation is the Unique Abilities Advisory Board, given by Chiara Bergonzi.
This one's kind of unfair because they really just started. So, just tell everybody what the plans are, so that next year when you report, it'll be a great report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, residents. My name is Chiara Bergonzi. I live at 798 Crandon Boulevard, apartment number 8. We are here representing the newly formed Disability Advisory Board. We just have our second meeting yesterday. We are very happy and excited to make Key Biscayne an even more inclusive community. And thank you, everyone, for your support. And our goal is for every residents, visitors to feel that they are part of every event in Key Biscayne.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Chartuni de la Serna, 301 Island Drive. As the mayor had said, we've only had 2 meetings. Our last one was yesterday. We have elected a chair, which is Chiara Bergonzi, co-chair myself, Vanessa Chartuni, and our secretary is Elise Benhak. We have identified many goals, but we would like to outline 3 of them for you all now. One of which is to create a proclamation of the village's commitment to meeting the needs of our special needs of our residents with disabilities, to be read each year. We're thinking the month of April. We'd like to improve the communication of our village events and initiatives so that the information reaches more of our residents with disabilities and their families. And we'd like to provide a forums and opportunities for our special needs individuals and families to share with us ways in which we can meet their needs better. So we have a lot to work on, and we really appreciate this opportunity.
And one more thing I wanted to add is that we feel like we want to suggest to change the name of Unique Ability to Disability Advisory Board, so everyone feels that they are seen and heard. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is Red Light Camera Program Annual Report, Chief of Police Francis Sousa.
No, I don't
Not for now?
No.
That's not for now?
We're good. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Effective July 1st of 2024, each participating red light camera program must prepare an annual report of all the results of all our red light camera traffic infractions. And the report has to be presented to the elected body of the municipality where the program takes place. The report's been provided to you. The following red light camera traffic infraction reporting period is from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. During that time, 972 notices of violation were issued. Out of those, 132 were dismissed, 0 were contested, and 0 were upheld. 161 of those notice violations resulted in a uniform traffic citation being issued, and 679 of them were successfully paid. The total amount of a notice of violation is $158, and funds are distributed as follows. $100 goes to the state general fund, $45 to the local government, $10 to a local trauma center, and $3 to spinal brain injury research through the Miami Project. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the consent agenda.
I'll move it. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is an ordinance, the second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, creating Article 5 speed detection systems in school zones of Chapter 26 of the Village Code of Ordinances to authorize the placement, installation, and operation of speed detection systems on roadways maintained as school zones, establish traffic enforcement procedures when speed detection systems are utilized for school zone speed limit violations, and create hearing procedures related to such school zone speed limit violations, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
So I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank
Okay,
you.
the item is properly before us. I need to open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open on ordinance 9A. Seeing no one come forward, public hearing is now closed. Questions for the chief?
Is this, I have a question, is this relate to tab 8?
Yes.
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 Okay. As I,
And it relates to 10A also, right, Chief?
Yeah, there's a separate item that's going to come forward if this is passed on second reading, which is the contract for the vendor that's going to be selected to actually do it.
as I read the statute, if I'm in the right section, this requires, if the notice is, a violation is issued, then the driver has the opportunity to contest it. They would come before the special magistrates before they would go to.
Correct.
Okay, and I just am a little bit concerned because I looked at the number of violations in your two-day study, and I think there's a time period within which the notices have to go out, and that anyone who would contest it, we don't know how many that would be, but if there were 1,000 citations, it could be a number of people. That I'm concerned about the special magistrates being able to handle that. It may tail off as people understand they can't speed, but
I think based on our conversations with the vendor and what's going on in other municipalities in Miami-Dade County, I definitely think there's going to be a correction period, and initially there'll be that initial violation period. But I think we can handle it if we see that it becomes a concern. Our staff is aware of how to do this based on the red light camera program that we have in place. This is a different program, but it's similar in how it is. So I understand your concern, but I think we can do it. And if it becomes of concern, it's something that we can pivot and have a discussion at that point. But I do think there's going to be a large correction immediately, and it's not a secret that these are coming. We've been vocal about them at council meetings and within the community.
Okay, thank you.
As part of the program, what are people going to visibly see that will help deter?
So when we get to the next item, the contract, there is a warning period that we have to go through. There's signage. They're going to see the where it's going to be installed, and I'll answer the questions that were brought up at the last meeting about hours of enforcement and the citation.
More technical question on the calibration. How's that handled?
Everything's handled through the vendor.
Through the vendor?
Yep.
And do they provide regular, is there a specific, I mean, and edify me, please. Is there a specific time that they have to, because of the weather, the conditions, do they have to calibrate that?
I'm going to defer that to the
Okay,
vendor.
just
This
want
is
to know
David.
because a lot of these things get challenged. I'm not an attorney, but I'm sure a lot of these things get challenged in court. And we want to make sure if we're going to implement the system that it follows through.
This is David D. Lasperia. He works for Red Speed and a retired Miami Beach Command staff member.
Assistant
Yes,
Chief,
that's
thank
how
you.
I know. That's how I remember.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. To answer your question, the statute requires that we have an annual calibration, which we do with a third-party vendor, the same vendor that does all the calibrations for at least the Miami Beach Police and probably for all of the local police.
Yeah.
And there's also a requirement that we do a monthly systems check. However, we take it a step further and we do a daily check of the equipment.
Okay.
So we do a morning check and an afternoon check, and just to ensure that whatever was captured during the day was properly captured.
So it is kind of labor intensive for the calibration, I would say, right?
No,
We
well,
do it
the
every
system
day?
check, the daily system check is an internal automatic thing that occurs, and then
Okay.
there's an audit trail for that. So that if they do request a hearing, and ma'am, just to kind of give you an idea, we've been doing this in Georgia for about 6 years, and we see there's about a 2% request for hearing in terms of the total volume. South Miami, I think, is going to have their first hearing next week, or this week, I believe, and there's only 4 out of 6,000 or so violations. So it's very minimal because of the rebuttable presumption that's built into the law. It's very clear cut. As long as the equipment is functioning, you're speeding, you're speeding.
Right, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, on the ordinance first, and then we'll go to 10A so we can knock this off. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Attorney.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. So actually, as part of this item, by law, the statute requires that we reopen the public hearing temporarily just to insert the traffic data that our vendor has collected and present it to you all, so that the ordinance can be properly implemented based on that traffic data.
Okay. Public hearing is now reopened. Anybody needs to come forward?
Part of that presentation,
I have it here.
You just go to that one slide, and I think that'll satisfy the requirement.
Okay.
And you should have it in your packet. It was the two-day study that you referenced earlier. Right there we go. So just if you see on your screen, we did a 2-day study at your 2 schools, and the violations at St. Agnes Academy in the 2 approaches that we studied were pretty significant. And then the K through 8 center had lower numbers, but still, and this is really for you all to decide, my opinion, is still a heightened safety risk, which would necessitate the inclusion in the ordinance as it is currently written. Counselor, does that satisfy?
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any
So-
questions on the ordinance?
Public hearing's closed? Okay.
Public hearing is closed.
Councilmember London.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sardinius.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted on second reading. The next item is an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending.
No, let's go to
Oh, to
10A.
10A? Okay.
Please. Thank
A
you.
resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving an agreement with Red Speed Florida LLC for the installation and operation of speed detection systems for enforcement of speed limit violations occurring in eligible school zones, waiving competitive bidding procedures, providing for authorization, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Move. Second.
Thank you.
Been moved and seconded. It's properly before us.
Why are we waiving competitive bidding?
So we actually did do speed studies with other companies that came in and did speed studies along with Red Speed. There's no cost incurred to the village. The vendor assumes all liability. And Red Speed has 95% of Dade County's law enforcement business. They're the gold standard when it comes to doing this in Dade County.
That's not a reason to hire them, is it? Maybe they're the worst people.
We had other companies come in, and every agency in Dade County, with the exception of one that I know of, David would know better, is with Red Speed. And for interoperability measures and communication with other agencies, issues that we have, it's much easier to deal with the same vendor than it is to go to differing ones.
They'll split the money up the same?
But yeah, Chief, I think just the cost allocation is all the same, and I think maybe he can identify it closely. So by state law, the way in which all the costs go is allocated the same for any vendor.
Correct.
In other words, we don't get any more or less.
Correct.
No matter who we choose.
Right.
Correct. It's defined by statute.
Is this used in other states?
Yes.
Is this Red Speed all over the country? Or are they a Florida company?
I think he said.
I know they're in Georgia because he just told us.
Yeah, he just.
Hey, Chief, why don't you pull up the slide that shows the allocation of cost?
Yeah. Councilmember, we're in 5 different states. We've been in Georgia for a little over 5 years. We've got about 70+% of the market share there, over 70 agencies in Georgia. We're the only vendor in the state of Florida that is endorsed by the Florida Police Chiefs Association. We're very proud of that. That was something that was competitive, and we were able to get that endorsement. And then the breakdown of the civil penalty and how the money is distributed is in front of you right there on your screens.
And everybody's the same?
I'm sorry?
All, what you said.
Yes, sir, the
No
distribution.
matter who we select, it's the same.
Yes, sir.
You couldn't give us more money if we wanted, selected you?
No, I couldn't.
But there is a benefit though, right, Chief, that because we do run our own school crossing guard, we actually get that $5 come to ourselves.
That is correct. So one of the unique things, the way the legislature developed it, as you see from the breakdown, $5 goes to a school crossing guard program. And because we have our own program, we'll benefit from each citation, where $5 will be separated from each citation and goes into our crossing guard program.
Are you doing our regular red lights now?
I'm sorry?
Are you the vendor who's doing the current red light program we have?
No, sir.
No.
Why are we considering them?
Because our vendor that does red lights doesn't do school speed enforcement.
Okay, good reason.
Not yet, sir.
No other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Question?
No, I was just saying good questions.
All right.
This is, excuse me for 1 second, this is planned for implementation in St. Agnes only though, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Yes.
Can you explain why?
Based on the number of citations at K8, the decision was made to only go ahead with St. Agnes right now. And I think one of the factors for that is because Harbor Drive, the way it's structured and designed, is a straight throughway and allows for acceleration a lot quicker. The location geography of the K8 being in that square and stop signs located in several locations doesn't allow for the acceleration that you get on Harbor Drive.
Thank you.
Will it cost us anything to have it put there?
No, sir, they absorb the cost, the company.
So why won't we have it the K8 also then?
Ask the same question.
Because the vendor, there has to be a cost breakdown to an even point for it. And the number of citations that we're seeing at K8 doesn't make it cost neutral.
It does make it profitable for him to put it there.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief, didn't he just point out that there was
If you look at the number of citations on this slide,
the gentleman that was just up, I think he pointed out that that he had a concern. He said something that was a high number. Maybe we could check with him again.
and I'll have him come up here for you, but when you look at the number of, in the 2-day study, there's over 1,500 violations at St. Agnes. There's less than 100 at K8. There's a substantial difference when it comes to
No question about it.
for that. And it's obviously something we're gonna monitor. When we worked with our legal team and we spoke to Red Speed, we included it in the ordinance. If we do see that we wanna add it again in the future, and we see that the violations are on the rise, we can always ask them to come back and do that.
Any other questions? We're on 10A.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going back to 9B.
9B.
An ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Article 2, Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Plan of Chapter 23 of the Village Code of Ordinances relating to the implementation of the conclusive firefighter cancer presumption established by Section 112.1816 Florida statutes and the rebuttal disease presumptions established by Sections 112.18, 112.181, and 175.231 Florida statutes, amending Sections 23-48, distribution of benefits, 23-49, miscellaneous provisions, 23-58, federal tax provisions, and 23-59, qualified health insurance premium distributions of the Village Code of Ordinances relating to pension plan qualifications, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Moving second. This ordinance on first reading. Any discussion?
Joe?
Yes.
Benjamin, what's the estimate of cost in something like this?
So we won't know at this time, but it's obviously something the actuaries are going to have to factor in when they look at the village's annual required contribution on an annual basis. Now, that being said, they will smooth it over the long time horizon.
Are they giving you a number, percentage increase in our contribution or the employee's contribution because of this?
They haven't yet.
So we have no idea what it's going to cost us then?
Not at this time, just not being an actuary, I would say minimal, just because of the population we have, but there will be a cost.
Okay. That's the bad news. The good news is, happy to report that on a current basis, we are overfunded, which is sort of incredible for
That's
a
terrific.
pension plan. On a smooth scale, we're about 97, 98%. But on a current basis, we're over 100% funded at this point in time. Obviously, there's no guarantee we'll continue doing that, but so far, so good. Expenses are down, income is up.
I wonder if there's a precedent in the United States.
Sorry?
Any precedent in the United States to meet that standard?
There's other people who are doing it.
It's
Not
really,
as good as us.
It's really quite remarkable. So the effect, this is to align with the state statute. That's basically what's driving us here.
Yeah, there's not an option here. I think this is just formalizing that language into our ordinances.
So there's medical, either payments or reimbursables, and there's a death benefit. Okay.
Just to reiterate, Benjamin, you said this is a state ordinance. We really don't. We have to incorporate it, basically.
Correct.
procedural.
I guess it occurs to me to mention, just because it's come up from time to time, that this is prospective to align with the state law. This doesn't have anything to do with our former firefighter, Ron.
Yes.
No, this does not, no.
Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading.
Madam Clerk, let's knock off 9D and 9E first.
An ordinance on first reading. An ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, deleting Section 30-39, appearance of structures and sites under construction of the Village Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Director?
So.
Yeah, it's you.
Just to restate, I know we have to open for public comment as well. Just to restate, we're deleting the section of the code that says a 42-inch fence is the minimum required, to leave section 5 of the code, which says a 6-foot tall fence is required.
So we're cleaning things up here.
We're cleaning things up.
Okay, questions?
Jeremy, does this address multifamily? So when they start the other projects, I think you mentioned something about that earlier. Just
right. So the reason we learned about that we should clean this up was because I had looked at a previous condition in other site plan approvals that called for a 6-foot fence, and I was like, wait, don't we have this requirement? And then I looked into the code and saw it. So we actually included it in it as a condition for approval for the Silver Sands site for 301 Ocean. Technically maybe we didn't, we did need to do it for that because currently this only applies to single family and 2-family, which is what next meeting will come with that modification to section 5, where we'll delete that section that says single and 2-family, so it applies to every construction site.
So the Ritz project will have this as well.
The Ritz project already does have the requirement because it was a site plan approval condition.
Other questions? Ordinance on first reading, 9D.
I heard that you needed to open a public hearing for this?
Yeah.
No, this
No.
is first reading.
No?
Okay.
Okay.
So the gap between tonight and when we bring this back, section 5, for a solution for more general applicability, there's no exposure. You're gonna.
There's zero exposure currently, and it's also 100% of our active construction sites are single family and 2-family, so we're well covered.
And if something came up in the meantime, you have site plan review criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
9D, let's go.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading.
9E.
An ordinance, first reading, an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Chapter 19, Park Rules and Regulations of the Village Code of Ordinances to create Section 19-19, Park Hours, relating to park hours within the village, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank
Moved
you.
and seconded. Discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I brought Todd as backup for Councilmember London. So in case he has any questions, I got Todd here with me.
Bodyguard.
As you're aware, we had several complaints at some of the parks over the summer. One of the things that Todd and I discovered as we were assigning our officers to do regular patrols is we really don't have set hours in our parks, which therefore makes it difficult for officers to enforce a trespassing or a legal standard if they wanted to go that route. So what we did is we worked
The
with.
sun up to sunset is not just a standard that.
It's the county ordinance, but in our own parks, it makes it difficult to enforce.
Because we've never done that time?
They play soccer there in the dark. What are you talking about?
Well, but there's lights.
Yeah, but my point is It's after sunset.
But
This
that's,
did come
that's
before the
accept-
council many years ago, and there was a discussion, but I think the times have changed, and I think this would be
But
the
that,
appropriate
but that's
route.
even accepted.
It is. So just so you're aware, there is a carve-out, Councilmember London, for athletic activities,
No, I
which,
understand that. So the question is, we're carving out what we're using today, rather than saying, well, suppose people want to be in the beach park watching the sunset and then staying there. So we're saying they can't do that now.
This gives us the authorization to create hours for the different parks beyond just sunrise and sunset.
I think it also gives us discretion, right? Right now, we don't, if we encounter someone who may not be up to good activities and we tell them to leave and they don't want to leave, legally, we can't do anything.
So this is basically give you authority to clear the park out of people you don't like.
Well, we like everybody, sir.
People don't like being there. Okay, how's that?
We like everybody. We treat everyone fairly and equally. It
I
just
know.
gives us a tool.
Frank, I know you would never.
The example that we were talking about is the difference between people out there with a boombox and beers on the one hand, and stargazers admiring the ascendancy of Mars and juxtaposition with Venus on the
Writer
other.
against beer?
Should be a writer. No, I like beer. Oh my, I sounded like Brett Kavanaugh there.
Chief, is this more of a sound ordinance issue, or is it just a disruption that you're concerned about, or just general?
It's a combination of factors. We've had noise complaints come from there. We've had some alcohol complaints. We've had some disruptive behavior complaints. So it just gives us the ability to have some discretion and have an authoritative measure to follow through on in case the officers wanted to go that route.
Are you mostly concerned about the beach park? Is that the?
Beach Park seems to be our main area of focus throughout the summer.
Okay, the item's on first reading. Let's go, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Roscoe.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Councilmember London.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sardinius.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner. Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Ordinance is approved on first reading.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to 9C. Take that one up.
An ordinance on first reading, a capital project authorizing ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving the purchase of the real property located at 375 West Enid Drive in an amount not to exceed $4.75 million, subject to the appraisals of the property and village manager's negotiation and execution of a purchase and sale agreement, providing for authorization, amending ordinance 2024-16 by adopting a related budget amendment, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank
Who's
you.
second? Mr. Manager, you want to tell us a little bit about this before I'm going to allow someone from the public to speak also on this?
Certainly. So let me take this back to when we first became aware of this property and its availability. So back in August, we had indication that this property was available for sale. We had some discussions with the owner, and by the time we brought it to council for discussion on I believe it was October 17th, he had already put it under contract. So it was under contract for a period of about 20 days at that point. And I think that is somewhere on or about November 12th. He gave his prospective buyer an additional 50 days to find the proper financing. So that's where they are now, with the expectation of closing in January. So right now what we're looking at is a decision to put a backup contract on this property. While talking with the seller, he is very interested in selling to the village. So this is not something that he doesn't want to do. But obviously, as I said before, it is under contract, but he would like to sell to the village if it's worth his while.
If the other offer falls
If
apart.
the other offer falls apart, correct.
Okay. Mr. Simon, please come forward.
Thank you. Steve Simon, 335 Harbor Lane. I'm here to speak about the memorandum specifically that's in the agenda package associated with this ordinance 9C. And for those at home, it's entitled Capital Purchase of 375 West Enid Drive for Placement of Stormwater Pump Station. A, on page 1, paragraph 1 of that memorandum entitled Recommendation, the reason given to consider the purchase is to enable the village to keep Harbor Park at its current size. If you believe that is the only reason, then why vote to buy that West Enid property? Next, bottom of page 2. Alternative, construct the pump station in the southern portion of Harbor Park as originally planned when the two properties comprising the park were purchased in 2019. If you believe that history is factually correct, then why vote to buy that West Enid property? Next, pages 10 through 13 of the memorandum consist of AECOM drawings for the proposed pump station in Harbor Drive Park. Perhaps this is a dry run or a preview of the future site plan hearing that is required by our municipal code. If you believe those renderings will get through any future hearings, then why vote to buy that West Enid property? Let me turn now to the historical records. In 2019, with a potential stormwater pump station included in my PowerPoint presentation, I showed a slide, this one, with the words small footprint, mostly underground, with the source of my information, the Village Public Works Director, shown on that slide. He pointed towards the narrow, indented strip at the back of the northern or McIntyre side of the park's property. Some might say, but we know so much more now than we did then about pump stations. Then they looked to me for my reaction. But back in 2019, I was not the one who approved what some might prefer to call constraints on the use of that park that still exists today. It was the 2019 Council on October 15th of that year that voted in favor of the purchase agreements, one of which, 599 Harbor Drive, is now described as the southern portion of the park, which included this condition on page 11 of the contract. Sale of property is contingent upon Village of Key Biscayne Council approval and purchase of adjacent property at 571 Harbor Drive, that's the northern portion, for sole use of combining both properties as a Village of Key Biscayne public park in perpetuity. I'm not the one who selected the funding source for the purchase of those two parcels. At the 2-hour and 55-minute mark in the video of that October 15th, 2019 meeting, just prior to the vote, a council member asked the village attorney to review the Land Acquisition Trust Fund restrictions, to which he, Chad, replied, "Those funds are restricted per that covenant and cannot be used for any other purpose from which they are stated, even if you vote 7-0. The covenant to which Chad was referring can be found in Resolution 2011-25. The council proceeded to use those funds to pay for both parcels. Note that tonight's memo for the purchase of pump station land on West Enid doesn't even mention the possibility of using Land Acquisition Trust Fund money. For those who have spoken about their willingness to participate in private sector fundraising for land acquisition, such as through a Parks Conservancy, the village's adherence or not to the restrictions of that covenant, I predict will be a turning point in those efforts. As far as the drawings of the 2-story building associated with the pump station in tonight's memorandum, on March 14th, 2023, during the council discussion portion of the required designation of use hearing for Harbor Drive Park, which is tied into the future site plan hearing that I mentioned, Mayor Rasko at the 3-hour and 26-minute mark of that video stated, "We don't want to see any buildings on this property." A moment later, Mayor Rasko spoke again saying, "If there's a building on that property, I'm a no." I get no pleasure in constantly reminding you of this history. I am much more comfortable spending my volunteer time working on projects, working towards solutions. That is why I brought a signed primary position, not backup contract.
Steve, you want to wrap up?
I'm almost done. Backup contract for 375 West Enid Drive to the village in August, with a timeline sensitive to the transition period between the former and present councils. If you proceed with the West Enid property, I suggest that you add one more item to the due diligence list, a home inspection with the thought in mind of having a nonprofit working with the village to manage that as a rental property to generate revenue either until you are ready to break ground at that site or until such time as you find a waterfront location for the pump station. By keeping our word to the sellers of the Harbor Drive Park land, by keeping our word to the donor of the seed money for the Land Acquisition Trust Fund, in short, By maintaining public trust, there is so much more that we can accomplish together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, walk us through some of this here.
So, right, the ordinance before you, just to be very clear, is on first reading. It's not requiring the purchase of this property at all. Obviously, it's under contract. I'm unsure whatever happened to the Land Acquisition Trust Fund monies that was referenced there. I did look up the resolution, and there does appear to have been a $7 million contribution to the Land Acquisition Trust Fund that was made. But I think that's more of a finance question.
Mr. Mayor, I can give you some backup on here.
Okay.
So if we go back to 2019, which is ordinance 2019-11, which was approved on October 15th, is the authorization to purchase 571 Harbor Drive and 599 Harbor Drive, which are the two properties that now make up Harbor Park. In that recommendation from the manager at the time, they mentioned that it addresses several deficiencies. First one was a lack of open space, in which they then created 32,525 square feet of open space. It also reduced a repetitive loss property, which was 599 Harbor Drive. It stated that it also provides space for stormwater systems to be moved from the right-of-way. It offers proximity to the bay for force main to discharge stormwater into the bay. It integrates into, at that time, what they called the Stormwater Master Plan. We are now calling it Zone 1 of the Resilient Infrastructure and Adaptation Program, and it advances the village's #1 strategy of resiliency. A little bit back up going into that, if you go all the way back to when this first came to the attention of the village on June 5th of 2019 from the Parks and Open Spaces Board, I look back at the minutes, and as going through that, the board discussed a resiliency benefit of purchasing low-lying property, a neighborhood park adjacent to a linear park with resiliency benefits, and they are unique and centrally located. And those are just a portion of the minutes, but I just want to make sure that you had the backup that this was a conversation at the time. Obviously, I was not here, but people were considering this to be purchased not only for an open space, but also to address potential resilience problems. I think Mr. Simon is correct, maybe, or Dr. Simon is correct. Maybe at that point we didn't know the scale, but the intent was there in our belief. And then secondly, if you go back to Resolution 2023-16, which we approved on March 14th of 2023, which was a land use determination for the properties. It established that the public park and public utility use to be permitted on village property at 571 and 599 Harbor Drive, otherwise known as Harbor Park, and it authorized the village manager to prepare a site plan for the property consistent with the uses of the resolution.
So did we buy it with Parks funds or no?
The purchase of that was with park funds, yes, correct.
Okay. So, want to go this way?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A couple things. One, Mike, would you put the pictures up on the screen, please? Pictures you're going to see now are in a nice neighborhood in Miami Beach where you got $25 to $30 million houses on both sides. The only thing you'll see is a little bit of electrical panels up against the wall, shielded by landscaping. Now, the reason that you've seen it here with the building on this property is for a generator. This property doesn't have a generator. This is the Biscayne Bay, and keep flicking through there, they can see them all. This one is coming from the street, from the bay. Keep going, Mike. A little further. Another one. Every one of these things is showing you where the pumps are underground. One more. And that is, stop, a little lower. That is the electric.
That's the panel you were talking about.
The other
So
way.
you can see that's the electrical, which is shielded by the landscaping. Now, Steve, I think this came out with the redesign and the interest and the time, about $7.5 million approximately. I don't have the number in front of me.
For what?
For this particular, if we've got this property and you added all the other things to it.
Right, yeah, there's
3
components of it. I think
I'll call it $7.5 million. I mean, you know, a couple of $1,000 between friends doesn't matter.
Yeah, 7.55 million approximately.
Oh, fine. All right, $7.5 million. And the latest estimate upper level of the estimate from our cost review, we're at 100 million. So now, at 100 million, this would throw us at 107 million. Do we really want to go spend an additional 7 million? And that's before we really know how much it's going to cost us to clean the water to dump it in the bay. We think we have an estimate, they put an allowance in there, but since we supposedly can comply with the county's requirements, we're going to make a proposal to them and go accordingly. So we really don't, so there's a number of unknowns. And my esteemed council member, Mr. Vasquez, has been around a long time in this business. And how often, when you have a 30% drawing and you bid it out and the contractors come in at what you estimate? Normally, it's a lot higher, correct?
Well, are you asking me a question? Is that what you're asking? Okay. I don't have a specific example that I can relate to.
My experience
it is a little bit sooner, but I think that when you look at it from the perspective of designing your drainage system, it is a key component to locate your key, what I call your key nodes, right? Your pump stations, your discharge, because if not, it becomes very costly. If you have a pump station already, you have a conceptual design where you can have a node right here, which is a pump station, but then you decide, and you design all your pipes to go in that direction, then you decide to move it here. If you haven't decided, you move it here, then now increases the cost of your design. So I think it's important, and I think it's very wise at this point to make a decision of these particular nodes and areas that you want to discharge.
So basically, we're about 107 million approximately, it was on one, before we even get bids.
And well, let me just highlight one more thing. And you also said about the water quality component. I don't think we should include that in the equation because that is an unfunded mandate, and what they're requiring far exceeds any property that we have, the size of any property that would have to meet the requirements that Miami-Dade County has imposed on all municipalities because of that ordinance. So we need to not allocate that.
I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's not, I don't think
it's expenditure
exact.
for zone one. I'm not saying we don't know how much to allocate for it. I agree. We don't know what to allocate for that.
I think it's important that we do define the location of the pump station as soon as possible.
That's fine. I'm agreeing with everything. But I'm saying we have another cost, which we don't know. And the question is, at what point do we say, hey, do we redesign the system to make it more efficient, that possibly we don't need that pump station there? But if we have that pump station there, why do we need a generator there? If you look at what Miami Beach has, they have no generators there. And my discussion with Steve and Roland was what happens if the electric goes out and then the pumps aren't going to work. Well, they can take the probability of that happening and the cost involved and say, what's the cost-benefit relationship? Can we afford to do that or not afford to do it? How much more do we want to pay for that particular extra liability when at the time we have a storm? And remember, this is going to be underground electric, so it should be a lot more secure at that point in time. Anyway, that's what I want to see, but I want you all to see what can be done, Steve, and that won't interfere with anything on the Harbor Park.
Does that actually, are you suggesting that a pump station that we're warranting to have would fit in there? Is that what he's saying? Are you suggesting that we could put a pump station the size that we need right there?
I'm saying you can build a, say, pump station underground and not interfere with the park's use for kids playing or people being there.
The pump station is underground. You will have control systems and you will have, but I don't think a generator, I think a generator is always a problem. A generator was a problem in Miami Beach as well. The size of it, the sheer size of it, to have a fixed generator near a pump station, it's you will have an industrial building. That's basically what you're calling for.
Just to be clear, Councilman, so whether the pump station is on 375 West Enid or in Harbor Park, it will be underground.
No, I'm saying fine. Keep it in Harbor Park. We don't need to buy 375 for the pump station. If you want to buy 375 anyway, that's something completely different. Right. But don't convince yourselves you have to buy it because you want to put a generator there. Isn't this the controls I'm showing here in the picture right now? I mean, they're basically take up very little space.
That's it.
And they're up against the wall. I mean, and it's strapped in. It's nothing.
I'm trying to follow it.
Let's have the other conversation about buying property for the purpose of buying property in open space.
Well, right now, it's been proposed doing it because it's a pump station. Once we get done doing that, then we can, if that's not going to be the case, then talk about something else. But
well, it's not because of the pump station. It's because of the structure housing
the generator.
Correct.
Which is substantial.
So
sure everybody understands what Ed is introducing.
Yeah.
That structure under his premise goes away altogether.
Yeah.
This little thing here,
It's the only
Guys,
piece.
can we put the site plan up for the
That's the only thing you have.
the pump station that's on, in the
That doesn't
memorandum?
interfere
That's,
with
I think it's,
Steve's thing.
drawing 102.
I don't know about that. It saves us $7.5 million.
and supported by the premise that we're not gonna-
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was 102.
Councilmember, do you want the one on Harbor, or you want the one on
I will-
375?
It's called CPS 102.
That's the one on Harbor, in Harbor Park.
Yeah, it's the one in Harbor Park.
Not to
It's
lose
in
the
the
point,
packet.
the little item that was in the back photograph that's embedded in the shrubbery.
Yeah.
Is a generator. It just doesn't have a power source
Where?
in your Miami Beach depiction.
No, there's no generator there.
There's no generator there.
That's all your controls.
That's all pump, electrical panels.
While you're
Tab
looking, can
two.
I ask a question?
Sure.
This
It's under tab,
stormwater system
tab 10.
is supposed to be handling the rain we get. It's not really envisioned to be handling hurricanes.
There's nothing to do with hurricanes.
Okay, so the likelihood of losing power, I would think is greater in a hurricane situation and not really in a rain event, no matter how much rain we're getting.
Agreed.
So that goes to perhaps the need or not for a generator.
And actually, the space is built to receive up to 4 generators. That's the plot.
Yeah.
Starting with one. But
But
to
in
your point, we
making
don't
that
need it.
observation, which
Keep
is
going,
not
keep going.
implausible, I think we have to assume that we underground the tower because we
That one.
frequently go out under circumstances that are not hurricanes.
Hold on, Mike.
Yeah, no,
Hold on.
I'm not going to say anything until you're ready.
Right, except that going underground is supposed to alleviate.
It does.
Not all, but a lot of those
It would improve that reality.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Presumably.
And can I just finish?
Yeah, sure.
My other concern is, and this is directed to council, the restriction for the acquisition of the lots for Harbor Park. So that, I don't think that's an issue if we do away with the generator. But we're not making all these decisions right now. I'm just saying if we decide not to buy Harbor Park, not to buy the additional lot or property, and we are leaving ourselves only with those 2 lots, and we have the generator still as part of the plan, we may be backing ourselves into a corner, so we may want to think about not making a final decision tonight.
And we can't because this is first reading.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, I wanted to emphasize that, Councilmember Kaplan. This is first reading. There will be second reading in January or February, depending on the time.
Hold on, let Mike's.
I just wanted everybody to take a look at this drawing, okay? Because if you look at the reference size of the building, and then you look at the reference size of the underground situation, that's bigger than the house next door. Okay, so this is going to take up probably 40% of that park. Plus, there's going to be a very large piece of hardware that's going to go through the park, which is going to require obviously a big trenching system. And then we also have a bunch of other hardware at the top. So it's just not clear to me how much material, how much we're going to take over this park. This park, Jeremy, right now that building is 2 stories. It's almost 35 feet tall from what I look at the rendering. This is a substantial piece of real estate, building.
So let me correct a couple things. It's only a single inhabited floor, and it's not really inhabited, but there's one level that has the generator and the electrical equipment room.
Right.
And so that's one. It's a single-story building.
Well,
that's above base flood elevation.
Okay.
And it's also the generator has a tank underneath. And so that tank needs to be above base
grade,
flood as well.
right.
So that accounts for the height. It's less than 35. I want to say it's around 25.
Okay,
I
when you
think
look at
the
the
peak of
when
the
you look at the
roof-
rendering, you have the person standing up on the deck. It looks, I mean, just based on the rendering, it's hard to scale any
Yeah.
of these drawings because there's no scale on them.
But we do have elevation drawings that we can share as well that are more detailed in terms of dimensions. I know it's not at 35 though.
Okay, but but from a plan view, it's not inconsequential.
No, it's about 12, 14 feet wide and by about 50 feet. And most of that is generator, although there's also really substantial electrical room component because we have a lot more pumping capacity than the example shown in Miami Beach. So the electrical panels really do fill the portion of the roof that's sort of under the square roof. The peaked portion of that drawing is just the electrical room.
Let me ask you. So going back, excuse me a minute. Mike, your point is we may really need that space and we're going to completely undo what was a park.
Yeah, my concern is that is two things. I think the property has a substantial value, just physical value, and I at the tune of probably $12 million. It's two lots, unique. It's basically a unicorn piece of property on the Key. I think it's got a big value to our balance sheet, and I think that this is going to basically destroy that value, and so I'm concerned about that.
This meaning not buying the adjacent property and putting the pump on the park.
Putting the pump on this property basically takes, the value of the property diminishes substantially. We're going to take up 40% of the property, so we're going to have a much smaller park. Is that what we want to do as a community? I got some concerns about that. I think, but the ordinance tonight is just is a matter of us just putting a backup bid on a second piece of property. So we're discussing something that we probably should be discussing in the workshop. Okay, where we're going to long-term go in our January meeting.
Okay.
So
I really like the idea of a workshop.
well, I mean, you called for that, correct?
Yeah.
I did, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I did want to correct one thing. There's only a single generator. We have multiple pumps with the capacity to add additional pumps.
Right.
But there's no circumstance where we would have more than one generator. Got it. Yeah.
Is there an architectural component to this, or are you just going to leave us with a
yeah, I think
industrial building?
No, there is, and in fact.
Can I see it?
you can bring it up.
As much as we have the presentation in the
In the
packet.
public?
It's in the packet. It's right
Yeah,
there.
if we can share that on the screen, I don't know
I think
what.
that's important, because otherwise we're talking
Do I
about,
control it here? Okay.
It's
I'm-
just
I'm
farther
sorry.
down,
Yeah.
farther down the packet.
So here's a detail, just to talk you through the plan as an introduction. It's actually worth starting here. The portion. Portion from here and down is. So that portion on the north
Is all
is
subterranean.
essentially 100% underground.
Subterranean. Yeah.
Yeah, subterranean. There will be some access hatches where you see the circles at the top of the drawing. The portion below that that's hatched more gray, there'll be a hardscape surface there. The intention is to detail that and make it part of a park space, like a plaza space.
I think you had renderings that showed.
Right.
that's what I'm asking, can the public?
Yeah, so
not me,
I
can the
just wanted
public see
to
that? Yeah.
explain this portion first
Site
and then.
plan.
So yeah, there you get a detail. You can see there's a lot of equipment in that plaza. So there will be access hatches and access requirements for that equipment.
Are
And
you
then,
outside the setback of the house? Two slides up. Are you outside setback? The
yes,
house?
yeah, we're respecting all zoning requirements for the structure. So this is well, obviously, look, with our structure and between our right-of-way and our property, we have some elements that are going over between right-of-way and the property. And then this is the initial, and look, this is still subject to additional development, but this is the initial idea for the building structure, that it imitates both the municipal buildings that we have that are existing in terms of materials and style, and that it's also respectful to the residential scale in the neighborhood.
Okay. I think several people have said it. We're not there yet. We're going to have further conversations about this, and this is on first reading. We'll see what happens as we go forward with the discussions.
Yeah, with that, I mean,
And there's valuable points on both sides of this conversation.
like many things, this comes down to a decision, but I wouldn't want to tonight foreclose the possibility. So I'm inclined to
Right.
support this at first reading.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The backup contract, I know I read it, but I don't remember. The backup contract would provide still for council approval of the contract. So the fact that we have a contract doesn't bind us in the event that the first purchaser in line goes away.
Right, well, there's a couple things that happen, yes, ma'am. So the first one, he'd have to accept that contract, whatever terms we put there, number one. Even as a backup contract. Number two, the other contract would have to go out of favor. And then thirdly, we'd have to come back to the council for approval. So that 3 steps would have to happen in order for it to be approved.
And one more, there has to be a second reading.
Well, that would be the second reading, the coming back to the council. And then, of course, we'd have to go through closing, have the due diligence and all those things, so then that also would occur as well.
I think the message here is that we are looking at a significant structure wherever we decide to put it and how it will affect us. It's like, I don't know what discussion was held here when the village spoke about a fire station or a police building or things that are necessary to our, day-to-day lifestyle here in Key Biscayne. So I'm wondering.
It was fully contested.
I'm sure, but
I can tell you.
again, at the end of the day, this is a need. It's a need that is being defined, and it's a need that is being defined across the entire state. And we have to, I think at one point or another, eventually we have to embrace the fact that we're going to be looking at a significant structure, whether it's here or not. So I think that, I'm just trying to look at it from that perspective. And we have to accommodate for a public facility that serves a significant public purpose for this community, so it doesn't flood and it meets the resiliency requirements. And this is probably one of the best sites that we're looking at right now, one of the most optimum sites.
I think your analysis is correct. I share it. And the question that occurs to me, this is all about protecting Harbor Park unless there's a prudent engineering solution that obviates the need for a structure. And we can have that discussion and come to that decision finally.
Without the generator, you don't need it.
But I think that, looking at what's happened to Harbor Park, your observation about what the scale of this would do to the park is certainly correct. And looking at what's happened organically, despite the fact that there's no design and no programming, Harbor Park has become a destination, and especially for the little kids who are doing, versatility drills and even out there learning how to cradle and throw and catch and dodge and lacrosse and all kinds of good things. It just reinforces the notion that we all know we have a need for open space, and it's being used. And I don't think the alternative with the green that's left, that's in the drawing, is other than a check-the-box placeholder for something that's called a park that doesn't function like a park.
Okay.
Councilmember Stoner?
Can you call on me last?
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I did not make a recommendation in this. This is open for consideration, so I would think there'd have to be a motion on what to direct me to do.
You did not make a recommendation?
No, I did not. It said consider.
This is on first reading. What difference does that make?
Well, someone asked to say, I think the clerk pulled up to take a vote, but there's nothing to take a vote on unless someone says what you want me to do.
I think we want to put a backup offer in.
Yeah.
It says recommendation approval in here.
Well, Steve, why don't you make a recommendation?
I'm opening up to consideration for the council.
Look, I think
generous.
I think it's first reading.
It's our decision.
First reading, we have a lot to discuss still. we definitely don't want to lose the opportunity if we decide we want to go
Doesn't cost
forward
us
with the
anything to
opportunity. It
put a
doesn't
backup
cost us
contract
anything to
on.
come back, so put a backup contract. I would motion to put a backup contract and let
second-
this pass
I
first
second.
reading.
Well, there's a couple of things, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
it's
you.
okay. Checking on my notes here. A couple of things that I think we need to really is,
Wait, excuse me.
but it's a
Mr.
recommendation of
Yeah,
how to
Mr.
proceed,
Attorney,
if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Attorney, isn't this what this item is about?
I think a motion to approve the ordinance as presented on first reading would be the appropriate
Okay,
motion.
all right. So
What I'd like to add. if I may.
Go ahead, Fernando.
Thank you. I would like to add the water quality mandate. I think that's an important, critical component that I've stated, even wrote an article on it one time about my concerns that we are, that the county has established a significant ordinance that requires significant treatment of water quality, and they're leaving it on the burden of the taxpayers.
Okay, but
And-
this
and no,
is-
but Mayor, but I think it does have to do with the size of the pump station, because eventually you're gonna have to treat it. And I think that's what Councilmember London was saying, with all due respect, sir. This is something that we have to take into consideration, because that's gonna require a space for us to accommodate for pretreatment prior to discharge.
Right.
And eventually, we have to address that. And I'd
Yes.
like to see staff
And
come
that's
back.
part of the discussion that
Part of the
Mr. Bracken
discussion.
also wants. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm
so.
working his coattails on that one, but I think that's important. I want to voice my concern on that. And I really want to see some definition from the county, because I don't want to be the first community. I don't want us to be the first community that gets a
And
little
believe
break
me, we're
on
not gonna
discharging
be.
water quality and polluting Biscayne Bays. Thank you.
Respectful devil's advocacy on this point. We're talking about a backup contract, a tenuous proposition at best. The issue that you're broaching applies across the board. Whatever we do, wherever we do it, this is an issue. And to bog
And
the
it applies,
solution-
excuse me, to 34 municipalities and to 1.2 million people who live in the UMSA area. So
Yeah, but there is no, my concern, let me just please explain this. My concern is that we are being put as kind of like the scapegoats or whatever, the strawman on a situation. Biscayne Bay is polluted. Then all of a sudden, the county releases this ordinance that now all the municipalities have to comply with a certain water quality requirement. It forces us to go and negotiate with them. What are we gonna do? We're gonna create a new drainage system and we're gonna negotiate with them to continue to discharge pollutants into the bay? How is that gonna make us look as a community at the forefront of water and resiliency? I think that it's incorrect for us to be seeking variances when they put in an ordinance of that magnitude and that stringent. We have to negotiate with the county right now, so they take and they become the stakeholders and they help us finance these water quality
Reaching
issues.
agreement, but that has nothing to do with this.
It does.
proposition.
Eventually it will. Eventually it will.
All
It
right.
applies whether we do this or not.
Yeah, but it's got nothing to do with the backup of it.
May I have
We
clarity,
cannot, they're gonna
Council,
put the burden on the
Vice Mayor?
taxpayers to pay for it.
Sardinius, did you withdraw your motion? Yes?
My motion is to approve it as written, the ordinance.
But you made a
And I
separate,
second it.
and you withdraw it because it's already included, right?
It's already in here. This is
Okay.
what we're doing.
I just wanted the clarity. Thank
And we
you.
have another shot at this, so
Councilmember, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Councilmember Vasquez?
No. Not because I want to understand.
Okay. Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
No.
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner? The ordinance is approved on first reading.
Okay.
We need to get definition from the county, and we're not getting it.
The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, selecting Oracle America, Inc. for law enforcement computer-aided dispatch CAD, record management RMS, and mobile platform system services in an amount not to exceed $557,803.96 pursuant to request for proposals RFP number 2024-09, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Chief.
Good evening again. Yeah, workout coming up
Start
here.
of the day.
I just want to clarify something in the memo that I wrote incorrectly, just so everyone is clear. It's not 3 optional 1-year extensions. It's just a one-time 3-year extension which will be in the contract to 6 years. The total is correct, it's in there. So it's initially a 3-year contract, and then it will be a one-time 3-year renewal, which we've negotiated with the vendor. So I just want to make that clear, and the cost is what it is in there. Mr. London, this did go out to RFP. We put it out to bid. I just wanted to make
Well
a
done.
question. So Oracle, we did have a team put together for the presentations of the CAD and RMS, and then it was opened up, and we had 3 vendors put in their bid. Oracle has been chosen, and we're coming before you tonight.
Questions to staff?
Yes, sir. How do we qualify the value proposition on this? I mean, monetarily? Is there a way to qualify? If we're here and we put $500,000 into this, what do we get out of it?
So that's a great question. That's very technical.
Qualified. I mean,
It's very technical. I'm going to try to explain it as short as I can.
Okay.
Records management systems in law enforcement, unfortunately, as they've gone historically, they're a 5 to 7 year product, right? And then we find that they're not compatible with what we need done, the data tracking that we need, the heat maps that we need, and just things that we need to pull out from the system. The current vendor that we have now has changed hands multiple times in the last several years, and the majority of the agencies that are utilizing them are moving away from them. Obviously, at Chiefs conferences, we see a number of these vendors, and you start to look at the products. What I did prior to going to RFP is we had several presentations from these vendors. I put the same task force of officers and supervisors in the room because, after all, they're the end user. They're the ones that are going to use this product day in and day out. And then I put our records manager in there because she fulfills all the requests and handles all the numbers that I ask her for statistics. Overwhelmingly, the staff liked Oracle way more than everybody else. And talking to other police chiefs and local municipalities in Dade County, we've had other agencies move towards Oracle. Other agencies are currently in negotiations with them. In terms of value, what they're bringing to the table right now, and this is opinion-based, it doesn't really get you to where you need to be without getting into all the technicalities, they're almost $200,000 cheaper than our next bidder, which in terms of what they're providing us and what we're able to do and what we've seen is a significant cost savings to the municipality and to us. I really believe in the product from what I've seen. They've been very responsive with every question that we've asked of them. And I know another agency is currently in implementation. I spoke to an agency that they already went live with, and they had 0 issues. They were very responsive with everything that the police chief and the staff needed.
in no disrespect in this question, but if we don't do this, what's the downside?
The downside is eventually we're going to have to move away from our system because they're becoming obsolete. We don't have tech support with them. They're more expensive than what we would be paying with Oracle.
Is it a legacy system?
It is it's still an existing company. They're just not providing support. And then, for example, last year we had an issue with something that we were trying to do for statistics. We call, they said, yeah, we'll do that for you, but it'll cost you $20,000 when we're already paying them almost $85,000 a year for our current existing product. So
can't do anything legally to force them to fulfill their contract value?
Well, our contract's expired with them. We're on a year-to-year basis. Okay. And I don't want to get into another long-term contract because everyone's moving away from them.
So this is basically what it sounds like. This is a software enhancement that we really don't have a choice to do, and it's going to cost us $500,000. Is that what you're saying? Just put it down, brass tacks. I'm just trying to get it.
Yes, sir.
So if we don't do this, we're stuck in the dark ages.
And you got to take into account, it is $500,000, which I recognize is a large investment for our residents. It's $500,000 broken down through 6 years. And the largest cost to implementing this software is the legacy data that we have to extrapolate from our current system. In case we have a public record search, we have to be able to look at what was in our existing software.
Okay, so this is a 6-year contract that has a value of $500,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we can take that. It's a little difficult to see that in the document. So we can shut this down if we're not getting the appropriate service?
We
not
have
that
the
Oracle's
option.
not going to give us good service.
Yeah, if we don't feel that we're receiving the services that they said they were going to deliver, there is clauses to escape the contract that's built in. But we do have an initial 3-year contract with the option to renew for a one-time 3-year renewal, which locks in the price, which in today's industry, as you know, everything's going up. We negotiated that price ahead of time.
sure software's all going up there.
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned that the, part of the major cost is getting the information from the old system to the new system. So if we put that, who's bearing that cost?
So Oracle will actually extrapolate the data from our current vendor and also our previous vendor that we had too, because this would be the third vendor that the village has had since its inception.
So it takes that information, puts it into their system. And then the $600,000, that's for the 6 years, or that's per year?
That's 6 years.
It's 100,000 a year.
And I understand. Now, is there any other cost involved? Like, we need a report, like you mentioned, the other people would charge you $20,000. What other charges are gonna be involved going forward with this company?
No, so we have full customer support throughout the life of the contract. The initial 3 years and then the 3-year renewal if we choose to do it on the third year. We have full customer service
So therefore, we
support.
should have no additional, I'm just trying to find out what the real cost is.
Correct.
Love
So
to-
the real cost, just to break it down, it's not $100,000 a year, Councilmember Bracken. Because the initial, it's $108,000 for the legacy data, and it breaks down, I believe it's $75,000 per year is the actual cost, where we're paying $85 now. So there's actual cost savings and then throughout the life of the escalation, because our current vendor has escalated every year since I've been here in price.
So we're currently on the hook at 85, and this new contract was 75.
Correct.
Yes, we have 10,000. Okay.
So in other words, going forward with our present vendor, 75 a year, 85 a year.
85 a year, and they didn't respond to the bid.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
if we do nothing,
You gotta
it's
still pay
85.
85.
We're
The
still
only thing
paying
we're
more.
saving is the transfer of data.
Yeah, we're paying more for a product that's not as technologically advanced as the one that we're going to be getting.
Okay.
As you said, they're increasing their price every year, right?
They are.
Okay. Any other questions on item 10B here? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job.
The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing the village manager to issue a work order to the Corradino Group, Inc. to perform design services for Harbor Drive improvements in an amount not to exceed $114,105, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, questions on this one?
Elaine, did you find the old design that was done by another engineering group that we never used?
We haven't found that yet, but that is something we will be doing before this work order starts, so it'll be incorporated into this design.
Remember that, yeah, the circles and everything else?
Yeah.
So we paid for all this before.
Yeah, there's
Then we-
work that's
We
been
decided
done.
not to use it because they're the engineers who did it now, and we realized what they did was lousy, so we did nothing. But there might be something in that design that we could utilize now, not to reinvent the wheel.
That might be true. I will say the number of tasks involved with this work order are substantial, and the component related to the geometry around the circles is one of many tasks. I do think that we might need to revisit what was brought before and have Corradino look at that, and then combine it with the full redesign of the roadway so that the county can then review that and approve that as a complete set. Either way, there's going to be work that Corradino needs to do related to the traffic circles, even if we've done work before.
And the state's gonna pay us for this, so.
The county, through the road impact fee program, isn't gonna pay for the design. They will pay for construction. They will review the design that we give them as a result of this work order.
We pay $114,000 and we get 1.8 million from the county.
Yes.
Okay.
Colin, we can't apply that to a design build? So
No,
we can't bid it?
they have to review the complete sets as a full design bid build. That's how the county's program works. We can't do a design build with the RIF program.
When it's somebody else's money.
It's a 90-10 split, so they will pay for 90% of the construction components that they feel are qualified for the RIF program. So they won't really cover aesthetic improvements, like if we wanted to do stamped asphalt or pavers around the circles, that would be something the village would bear outside of that 90-10 split.
And how are we going to address the issue with the curbs breaking with all the cement trucks that run over these things on a regular basis?
The use of the road is something that our Public Works Department is actively working on, and how to regulate that. I know that we have code in place to review that. From this particular scope of work, they will be looking at the curbs, they will be redesigning them, and a part of the construction process will be rebuilding those curbs, so the damage that's on the road from curb all the way into the middle of the road will be addressed and repaired.
No, I'm not looking to get it repaired. I'm looking to try to figure out how to redesign it so that it doesn't continue to break when we have large concrete trucks running over it on a routine basis, because we're renovating half the houses on the Key.
That's right.
I'm not, this is not directed at you specifically.
No, I understand the issue. How the curbs have been constructed to date, something I'm not aware of, but I know Corradino is going to be using the best practices and be using standards from FDOT, which obviously handles large volumes of cars because they're state roads. We can explore a more robust construction process. At the same time, the county may look at that and say that's beyond, but that's okay. We might be okay with paying that difference, but we'll have Corradino take a look at it.
Mr. Public Works, you want to add anything to this?
It's kind of like a joke. That's true.
Good evening, Council. Just to follow up on what Colleen was stating, yes, we will be asking the Corradino group to look at those areas that we have any failures and to improve on them as maybe they would determine would be needed. We'll look at it and we'll tell them what we're experiencing with the heavy trucks and the concrete trucks and the material trucks that are driving through the village.
And
And what effects they're having on those
We're
curbs.
having the sandset paver problem all over the island. I mean,
Yes.
this is not a new problem, right? So every one of these traffic calming things we have has some, not everyone, but the vast majority of the traffic calming on Harbor Drive is failing, right? The whole thing. So, and if we go back and do the same thing, it's just going to fail again. So are we looking at remediating this so that it doesn't happen? So going from away from
Right.
Correct.
brick paved. So we're going to go to stamp concrete or something that's.
Correct.
We're looking at other methods and materials to use other than pavers, whether it be stamped asphalt or stamped concrete maybe to keep the aesthetics like they are now.
Are we talking to any of the people that Derek, he left, you attended the resiliency workshop the other night, and
Yes.
Ferguson made all these presentations about all
Yes.
these different types of materials. We're gonna hopefully try to incorporate some of this into the
Yes,
possible
we're-
design.
We're looking at some of the materials similar to what they presented the other night. We're looking at some of theirs, but any other possibility that exists out there, yes.
I'm not trying to be terse. I'm just trying to get my
No,
point
no.
across. Okay.
I mean, my concern, like Mike's, I think, is all this was studied before and designed a certain way, and it didn't work.
Correct.
And so we just want to have faith that this time we're going to do a much better job, much more robust job to understand what it is we need, what are the solutions we need. So
Correct.
that this doesn't happen again, because those pavers were a fail.
Correct. And we're going to task Corradino to look at that beyond what was done in the past to move forward with something that's more resilient, more stable. Yes.
That and the geometry itself.
Exactly.
Careful with the
That also,
chicanes.
yes.
Careful with the chicanes. They have a tendency, people like to, they drive straight and they get bored, so chicanes help them.
Chicanes are very popular for traffic calming devices, yes.
And you also have to play a little bit with your wheels. So, I mean, be careful with those. Check out some roads on the beach.
You also have to leave enough area for, as Mr. Kaplan was saying, to get around.
Mr.
for the
Manager, is there
larger
any
vehicles.
intention that there ever be another bus service down that road? Do you know?
No, there is not, no.
Okay, so we know for sure that their buses won't be back down that road.
The county bus will not. No, I've asked the Public Works Director and also working with Freebie of a possible shuttle. We would have to bear that cost. We're also looking at potentially increasing our Freebie fleet as we've done in the past.
Yeah, because I mean,
but we're looking at all
the
options.
bus definitely beat that thing up for
Right,
sure.
based on your question is the county has revamped the bus routes and those large buses aren't going on Harbor anymore.
Never going down
They're only gonna go with more headway
Up and down
on Crandon.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, indicating the village's official intent to issue tax-exempt bonds in various series in an amount not to exceed $100 million to finance the cost of mitigating the effects of sea level rise and flooding, protecting the village's beaches and shoreline, and hardening infrastructure to the effects of hurricanes, and to issue a portion of the proceeds of such bonds to reimburse expenditures paid or incurred prior to the date of issuance thereof, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
One suggestion, request in the text. In the first whereas, this point came up earlier, I think Nancy introduced the thought, that our only threat is not from hurricanes. And this is limited to hardening infrastructure to respond to hurricane threat. The more frequent threat is simply storm events, and I would suggest that we enlarge the purpose to meet both.
This actually represents the referendum itself, and these are the words that came out of the referendum, so these are basically what the residents voted on.
It does say sea level rise and flooding.
So it does cover it all. It talks about sea level rise, flooding, she's correct, beach and storm, shoreline protection, as well as.
And hardening.
And hardening.
So let me then suggest the logical and implicit notion that if we're protected against hurricanes, we're damn well protected against an average storm.
I would agree with you, Councilmember.
I have a question.
Mr. Attorney, sorry, does this make sure that we include the possibility to underground the power, correct? Is when they use the word hardening?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question. This is the grant. So I have a question on the funding for this. I mean, the management of all these respective grants.
Well, so let me make sure you understand what the intent of this is. This is not issuing any bonds, nor is there any intent at this point. In other words, this resolution is not issuing any bonds. What we intend to do as we go through, and you'll see this in January, where we're on the 60% design, we'll begin to identify projects that we want to move forward. I would anticipate that we would bring our recommendation for Tranche 1 along with the budget workshop in June so that we can look at them both for what we want to do with the Zone 1 as well with the budget for next year. The primary purpose for this is to create a process to reimburse expenditures that are incurred prior to the issuance of bond. And one of these things, in some cases, this is the sister resolution to the ordinance for the purchase of 375. So if we do choose to purchase 375, that would be considered a capital purchase that could be paid for by the bond. We could then bring it forward and put it into Tranche 1 without beginning the 3-year cycle and without incurring additional fees. So that's the intent of this resolution. We're not putting forward any bonds, no series of bonds or anything like that. It's opening up the opportunity for a reimbursement. It may not just be 375. We may find 375 West Enid. We may find that there are other projects that we have funded that we would want to bring forward into Tranche 1.
Steve, is this a cash flow management tool primarily?
Not necessarily cash flow. I think what it is, a bond, you don't necessarily want to issue bonds piecemeal. You want to issue bonds in large groups because there is a
But
fee.
you said this wasn't an issue for bonds, so that.
This is not issuing bonds. It's not an issue of bonds. We are not issuing bonds with this. What it does is it enables us the authority to bring projects that we identify now to put it on the first tranche of the bond, which, as I mentioned, I would suggest we bring it forward in sometime in June timeframe. So we wouldn't be doing individual bonds on small projects. We want to wait till we have a larger group of projects, whatever that number is, reduce the fees from trying to do it once or twice. And also a general obligation bond has a restriction of time that once you issue it, you have a certain period of time that you have to complete the project.
So it allows you to kind of backdate
Yes, and this is,
expenses that you want to fund by the bond.
and this is allowable by IRS code, and as you'll see, we reference that code in this or in this resolution. So this is not something we're coming up, this is fully step-by-step process to ensure that we can do this legally and properly.
I think an answer to Mike's question would be, if you don't do it by bonds, then it's gonna come out of our general funds, general taxes. So if you look at that place, yeah, I can say it's a cash flow thing, because if we decide not to do that, not sell the bonds, then we're gonna have to take out the general funds and pay for it now, not over a period of years.
Right,
Is
so,
that pretty good, Steve?
but from a working capital standpoint, we're gonna have to take, it's come out of general fund, and then we reimburse it with the bond, right?
Yeah.
Well, simply, it just gives us more options in our financing plan.
No, but from a cash flow point, that's what we're talking
I
about.
understand. Now, thanks.
So it now opens up the GOB for potential purchases or expenditures. And it actually starts the 60 days from the date of approval. So I believe that's October 19th. So it'll be October 19th, and it would go on for 3 years. So we'd be able to have this resolution approval for 3 years. So not only would we be able to do it on the first tranche, we could potentially do it on the second tranche, depending on when we choose to do that second series.
Is the 3 years to spend the money from the date we approve this, or from the date we actually sell the bonds?
No, that you're asking for a different restriction. They both happen to be 3 years. The authority of this resolution exists for 3 years. So in other words, December 15th of 2027, this would no longer have the authority to,
But this would not affect the date that we
No.
have to spend the 3 years, to spend the money.
and that's one of the intents of this, exactly.
So what's the urgency of doing it now, Steve, versus doing it in January, just as a question?
Just smart business to get it done prior to January. I mean,
No, I'm
it-
just saying, what's the
yeah.
urgency to do this now versus?
No,
I don't, yeah, it's not necessarily urgency. I just
It's
think
just, this is just a financial tool that you want to have in your
Right.
toolbox.
exactly.
Okay, any further questions on this? Seeing none?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion,
That would be nay.
I got it. Motion carries.
All right. Couple things. Our councilwoman's left the special magistrates board, so I did get someone that's interested, Sam Schrager from the Sands, and so I'm appointing him to fill that slot, special magistrate. Someone, Manny, left the Sustainability Board, so I am appointing Elena Iturralde to take his place. I've got some resumes from Art in Public Places, and we can share those with you. That takes care of that.
So, Mr. Mayor, the appointments are subject to council confirmation by simple voice vote.
There's several, so I think you were doing them all at the
Yeah.
same time.
Hold on. There are a number for the EAB, and you have one. Okay, so that brings me to another question. And you were asked to look at that in your packet is we need some liaisons from the council to work with these different committees that we have. So there is, Frank already has 2 committees, right?
History and Art in Public Places.
Okay. You have the EAB. Which are the ones that we talked about?
Land acquisition.
A council member liaison is needed on the Parks and Open Spaces Board.
Are you looking for volunteers?
Yes.
And would
Which
there a
ones?
couple?
Arts and
Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Open Spaces Board needs a council member liaison, as well as the Village Athletics Advisory Board, as well as the Sustainability Advisory Board and the Unique Abilities Board.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be interested in the Sustainability Board if you.
You're on. Next,
I would do athletics.
Village Athletics Advisory Board. Okay,
And I'll do unique, which they want to change the name, but I don't think that's a good idea. Unless someone else wants to do it.
go right ahead, okay.
Well, with some reluctance for volunteering, I've chaired and served as liaison on Parks and Recreation in the past. It seems natural to continue that service.
Because you're not doing enough.
Well, I can't quit St. Christopher's.
Okay, that covers it, right?
I do have a question. You mentioned Art and Public Places Board, but I didn't hear an appointment name.
I'm already serving.
No, not the liaison, a board member. We have a vacancy.
Yes.
One vacancy.
I won't be able to do it right now because I need to share those with the liaison.
Okay, so that's, okay. And then there was an Education Advisory Board vacancy. Did you want to fill that?
If I still would like to vet, can we do that for the next meeting?
Okay, do it for the next
I'll have
meeting.
it for next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So is it confirming Mr. Samuel Schrager to the Special Magistrates Board, Elena Interalde to the Sustainability Advisory Board, and then
The liaisons.
the liaison, Councilmember Kaplan for Parks, Councilmember Bracken for Sustainability Advisory Board liaison, and Councilmember Stoner for the Village Athletic Advisory Board and the Unique Abilities Board. So
Okay.
consensus of council. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks to Manny and to Nancy.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to go to,
Yeah, let's see if we can do quickly some of these council issues. We have a successful desire for our council people to be in offices. I don't know, I haven't asked Mike or
Nancy.
Fred.
It's still early.
What's her name?
Nancy.
What's her name?
But Mr. Vasquez has been using the space, and Mr., what's your name? Sardinas, and I'm there pretty much every day. So we're gonna need a solution there, Mr. Manager, about using some of that space and maybe coordinating some of that historical things that are in there to perhaps move them to, obviously, when the new library is there, but in the meantime, maybe there's some other place where that could be. Are
Yeah.
you interested in?
I need space if it's available.
Okay,
I'm okay.
you're okay?
I'd like to have a little space.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Yeah.
Tiny. I can accommodate.
So,
4. 3.5. Just
Is the
keep it
intention to
4.
be able to have a meeting there?
I have
Meeting, work.
workspace and having a conference
Or a
room.
conference table?
Yeah.
I'd be,
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to have a conference table.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea.
Okay, so, if you don't mind, I will work with the administration to try to see what we can come up with.
That's a great idea.
Okay? Consensus, council?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Are there some ideas of where to?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, but if we could, for the time being, keep the closet intact for the historical collection, it's in the back there.
Yep.
Because at the present moment, it's air conditioned, and there's no other place that I can think of to put it.
It's fair. Easy.
Okay, Frank, you had two items on here.
The first,
All-American?
yeah, last time we met, we had a general consensus that this was a good idea, which I support and think we should do. But in looking at what this is all about, it seemed to me to mention, so that we know what we're getting into, that the coincidence that we're a coastal city working on resiliency is not really enough to succeed at this. Because the premise behind this whole competition, and I suppose the value proposition of the agency that supports this, is basically leveraging public participation. And so I think we should do this. It seems a good exercise to rekindle a very activated outreach and engagement program. But we ought to talk about a methodology so that we can do this successfully.
Could we have our
Just for my-
advisory boards?
Yeah, Frank, could you expand a little bit about what this is?
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
just for people who are not aware.
There's something called the National Civic League, and they sponsor a competition called the All-American City Award. And there's a different topic, and any city in the country is invited to participate. This year's topic is coincidentally resiliency, sustainability, strengthening infrastructure. What a nice coincidence. But as I say, the fact that we're doing this isn't really what this competition primarily is looking for. It's really, it seems to me, looking for a demonstrable, systematic, continuous effort of public engagement, public communication, interactiveness that's not just delivering the talking points or the infomercial about decisions that are already made, but really including the public in the formulation of policy.
Wouldn't Helena and Zero Waste, her whole group?
To me, it's very relevant and also an example that I consider to be emblematic of real leadership. Yes.
And a lot of resident participation.
Yes.
But Frank, are you concerned at all about bandwidth of the staff?
Yes. Frankly, specifically that, yeah. It's just not in your day job. And I see the need to have something like a program manager who's responsible for making sure that the communication isn't just one way and that we're amassing data points so that we can factor in our ultimate submission, what we've accomplished and how we've accomplished it.
Outside of a plaque, is there any monetary value for doing this?
I'm not aware of any. I believe there's a sort of a convocation in, maybe it's Colorado, and finalists are invited to present, and then I think it's like the Academy Award show.
But there's a cost structure on the fact that staff is going to be consumed with time to process this, right?
Well, part of what I'm suggesting is that we set this up so that staff isn't consumed. I don't see that either as fair or even feasible.
So we have to fund it with something else.
Well, if we're not recognizing leveraging volunteerism, we're really missing the point of the premise, which is volunteerism, citizen engagement.
Well, Helena's not going to, and can't. She's already overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So that's not.
So I'm just offering this as a thought that occurred to me when I read this material.
What about, is it Julie?
Julie.
Who's working on special events or something? I don't know what.
Yes, she's fairly new, yes.
Maybe what we do is simply step back and think about this. And But recognizing that there's an initial submission that's not binding or mandatory in any way, it's a letter of intent. And I think the submission deadline is the end of this month. So if we're going to do this, we need to proffer something. And then maybe before the January meeting, decide how we might actually manage this so as to be successful.
So, Councilmember, I think you and I had this conversation maybe a little while ago, and one of the things that we looked at earlier, maybe about a year and a half ago, perhaps, is pursuing what's called a City of Excellence program, and I'm imagining it's probably something similar. And as you mentioned, the government doing itself is not going to get what you want to get, because this is all about community. And we did bring this up with our business community. We brought this up with our community foundation and as well as our churches and schools, and the problem we faced at that point, there wasn't any appetite for it. So we would have to create some sort of instigation, excitement around it in order to get it done. Because even if we did take it up, and I appreciate the council members saying, the question of bandwidth, even if the village itself did it, it has to have community participation in order for it to compete and actually be something worthwhile.
Maybe we just delegate some ad hoc initiative to see whether we have that kind of interest. And if we do, we decide to go for it. If we don't, we decide not to. But I don't think stepping into this with the blithe assumption that the mere fact that we're an island and working on resiliency is going to ipso facto be successful. You want me to try to find a way to make this effective and report back? But we need to make a decision if we're going to submit a letter of intent before we meet next. So we'd have to do this through the manager and communicate.
And if we submit a letter and we change our mind,
That's right.
doesn't matter.
And we simply don't do it.
So it makes no difference.
Makes
Just submit the letter, no big deal. Nothing to lose.
Can you work on a letter with the manager?
Yeah.
Okay.
Consensus of council. Thank you. The
Next,
next item is,
Last, and this ties to the office space. The library, ever since these negotiations begun, this is a number of years, the placeholder has always been that we would have an opportunity to install a historical Key Biscayne sort of collection of some sort or another. Place and stuff to be determined, but thanks to Mr. Baker and his predecessor, Mr. Santiago, this has always been part of the understanding and part of the interest on the library system to make this happen for us. Now it's coming to pass. And so one of the decisions is to what to put where. Now the place, I think, has been identified. It's a good place. There's a sufficient room to have a reasonably extensive collection of photographs and other things. With Katie Petros' help, who's been involved in this for quite a long time, and the Historical Society, there's a process ongoing now to make selections, which are really going to be recommendations, but pretty firm selections about what they think the picture array and the installation, the materials, the objects could be and should be. And that'll come back to council. I don't know that I see it as an approval vote, but, informational. And
Are the architects of the library have this in their band? Do they have this in their plan? So
Yeah, yes, they do. Yeah, we're working with them on a regular basis.
Yeah. And so, but that will lead to a decision about whether to dismantle the installation that's in the mayor and council chambers now and simply replace part of that or all of that or something like that in the library, or to keep that, which doesn't really interfere with space and use, it's just decoration really, with the understanding that very few people visit there. So that's a decision not for now, but that's what's happening.
And that is the long-term intent. I think recently I sent you all some information. In fact, I think it was last Friday. It looks like, if all things going well, and obviously county procurement takes its time, they would start construction fall of 2025, and it is just short of a 2-year construction period. So we would see this constructed let's just say fall 2027. So that's about the timeline. Obviously, that doesn't meet our timeline to get space, but we'd have to find something in the meantime to be able to put that materials that makes sense in a safe location so that we have it ready to go to the library.
Exactly one question only for, I think, Jeremy. Do we have the ability in-house to use a scale against the architecturals to determine how much verticality and horizontal space we have in each one of the realms in the room, so that we can assess size and numbers of photographs?
Yes, they actually specifically provided us drawings for the interior of some of the rooms we were interested in.
Okay.
So that we could start laying that out, yeah.
Yeah, so we have all that, yes.
Okay, so that's good, because we can start making, they can start making real recommendations, content.
And we already
size.
are. I thought you were engaged with that.
I am.
Okay, good.
I am.
Okay, I
And
wanna make sure.
with the help of the foundation and the historical
Okay,
society,
okay, I
it's
wanna
all
make sure
coming
you are.
together.
All right.
Okay. All
Next.
right. Let me take the next item. Mr. Hoffenberth here. If we could get an update on the turfing issue at the St. Agnes Field.
Sure. Good evening. As previously reported, we issued the RFP on November 19th. We held a pre-bid meeting with different representatives on December 3rd. We received questions from the different companies and we responded to those. Now we're set to receive proposals on December 23rd. The managers approved the evaluation committee. They're scheduled to have their first meeting on January 6th. And our plan was to bring this to you in January, but we have to see where the scheduling of the meeting lies out with, obviously, we're meeting January 6th. We got to get things turned around quickly. So I know you're going to be looking at your schedule and approving that tonight, and that obviously can impact.
So I've given the indication that the meeting might be on January 14th, and obviously, I've asked them, to ensure that they, do as best as they can during that evaluation committee, but sometimes questions, issues do arise, and obviously we don't want to make a decision until those are answered. So we're going to be tight coming up against January 14th. So he's going to move, but again, I want to make sure it's done appropriately.
Yes.
Other option would be, if we can't meet that date, if we do decide to have a special council meeting on January 28th, we might be able to take that up as the first item.
Okay. And your thoughts on it being ready for when it needs to be ready, which is at the end of school, or to be worked on while school's out?
That's how we've laid this out. That'll be in the contract documents. That's what we've provided in the bid language, so they understand exactly what our expectations are.
Which is to complete it before the next school year starts or before
Right.
the end of the school year?
Is to complete it over the summer before the school year starts.
Start date May 15th, complete date August 14th.
Okay.
So that means in order to get that done, we do have to get second approval on February, likely to be February 11th, if that is the council meeting in February.
Okay.
Just for a second, while I have you up there, can I have a small update on the K-8
Sure.
basketball courts?
So where we are now is we've had a little holdup with the company. I've been trying to get them to do the locates and the borings, and I haven't seen traction, so I'm gonna keep after them. Again,
I know, but the goal is for sure to have it done for the next school year.
absolutely. Yeah, we're well ahead of our,
I know.
unless there was some
I've been following that.
significant issue with the engineering at the school, which I don't believe there, I mean, we are a little unprecedented in adjustable basketball hoops, and we're gonna have to see where the school board comes back on that, but the ones we've selected meet, all the windstorm, everything else that the school board requires of anything that they install on their property. So cautiously optimistic that they'll proceed.
And we hold basketball programming as well.
Yes.
What's the time of year for that, for the season?
Basketball's in the spring.
But you also have basketball indoors and outdoors?
Yes.
Okay, all in the spring?
Yes.
Is there any chance to get it done for the spring?
Not a project, not working around children in recess.
Fair enough.
At that facility. If it was segregated off from and you could fence it off, but we've all seen that place at recess, and it's not where you want trucks moving around.
Can I just ask a general question? The gentleman came up about the pickleball conversation. How does that work procedurally? Do they go to you and then you bring something to us? How does that work?
The manager and I were talking about that after that came up, and we'd like to sit down with those individuals, take a look at their locations, evaluate them, and then report back to you.
That's on the Village Green. I mean, I want you to look at it for sure, but to me, I don't see how that's possible.
The spaces I think that they were suggesting is there's a space towards, I guess,
They're recommending the northwest corner, which is the one up near the community church.
Which is by the entrance of the large dog park, not the small one.
Yes. Right across from the community
There used to be a kind of a grassy hill there.
There used to be a pavilion
There was a
way
pavilion,
back when,
that's
is
right.
what they were referring
That's
to,
right.
that got
So
removed.
it's feasible because they're talking about 5,000 square feet that
I think they went to 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing is
My question is,
feasible.
how do you program that
I didn't
after?
mean this to come up for conversation. I'm just
No,
trying
it's
to
a good question, though.
understand
And
the
we'll do
procedural
an
aspect.
evaluation, Councilman, but we'll come back. There are some pros or cons. First of all, there's parking questions. Secondly, we don't have much space for kids to play other than fields. So let us do the pros and cons. We'll come back.
I was more just addressing the procedural process of when someone comes from the gallery and says, "Hey, I've got this interest."
They got to work with staff. Yes.
Yeah.
How does that work?
They come to us. We'll do it because obviously it's got to be budgeted too, right? So this is not something unless we decide to make a budget amendment this year. We would put it in the capital plan. And in fact, we do have pickleball courts in a location to be determined in the capital plan.
And
The
this
issue
group
is finding that location.
Yeah, and this group's been relatively organized in the way that they've approached ourselves, some of the council members, to kind of be heard and then to just get it to this point. That's why they presented today.
One of the people that's playing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just trying to understand.
I'm a fan of pickleball too, man.
Todd, have we ever memorialized our agreement with St. Agnes in the event that they would not extend our lease after 5 years? That the cost of the thing will be prorated?
We're working with the firm. We have a draft.
Sorry?
We're working with the law firm, and we have a
The
draft.
answer is no.
We are amending our agreement.
Have we done it?
It will come. It will come when the approval of the first reading of the turf comes. So
What have they
in
said
January.
so far? We discussed it with them,
Yes,
Yes.
and they've agreed?
they've agreed in principle, but they have to send it to the archdiocese.
Okay.
Okay.
But that'll come with the request in January.
I had an item here on maintenance of Village Green. It's coincidentally, but all the areas that they mentioned were pickleball courts are already being used. They're being used by volleyball. They're being used by what is it? The field hockey people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and one of the reasons I put this on the agenda is it's just, before we got a little bit of rain, the maintenance on those areas is terrible because they're being used. I mean, it's not.
Good, they're being used.
Yeah. But we need to figure out a way to continue to keep those spaces in good condition. I saw a couple of indentations. Todd told me that some of those are trees that fell down, and but obviously it's limited space. People have to walk through there all the time. We need to make sure that those spaces are maintained properly. What's your plan, Todd?
Sure. We're requested work orders to level, fill, and resod those areas where the trees fell, so we can solve that. We're proactively treating those areas. The problem is when the weather changes, that grass is Bermuda. Bermuda goes dormant in the winter. Our use peaks in the winter. the growing conditions are at their worst. So we're going to do everything in our power to keep it in the best condition possible. I think the contractor has done a better job in the 2 years that they've been with us than was previously experienced. We are working with those people that do programs and activities and rotating them to mitigate their impacts. But then we also have, which you all know, is the general use of all the kids who are, the parents are watching one kid's game and the other four are playing here, and that's not something we can actually direct and control. So there are some uncontrollable elements out there that impact the conditions of that facility. But
now that we're talking about maintenance of fields, I just want to acknowledge the maintenance on the field at the K-8 has been pristine. That
Thank you.
outfield looks the best it's ever looked. The baseball diamond looks amazing. Well done.
it looked really good while we were beating the police and fire in kickball on Friday.
That's right, it did. It did, but it's the best I've ever looked. I've been using that field quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years with the softball program, the baseball program, and it's the best it's ever looked.
Todd, this may not be in your purview, but when there's vehicles that are parked at that Village Green vendors who are providing exercise classes and things like that, and there's vehicles parked there for extended periods of time, like there's a black van that's been sitting there forever. Okay. I know this is probably not your purview, but what happens with that stuff? And it's just
Well, we are talking about bringing some parking issues before the council for a discussion in the new year at some other of our facilities as well. I have to go through the manager with it, but let me do that and get back to you in the new year.
So just, I guess, maybe to understand your question, you're saying, is he allowed to park there continuously and not move?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple people have brought this to my attention. You could get on council, of course, you get the 5 phone calls, right? So one of them is this black van that's been sitting there, and I think it's managed by the guy who has the green Lamborghini, and it's been sitting there for a substantial period of time, and it probably hasn't moved forever.
He does move it from spot to spot.
Oh, he does. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also the green truck, the tennis. And I've seen him move over to Winn-Dixie for a day or two, and then he'll come back to the village and park there for 3 days straight.
Anyway, I was just wondering if it's probably an enforcement issue that's probably not worth the time, but just.
Okay.
Last
Thank you.
question,
Sorry.
one thing that is within your purview,
Yes, sir.
when are you getting married?
December 27th, sir.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think you're too young.
Think about it.
Todd has made it in the most difficult location in the state of Florida and the most difficult day of all the year to get to his wedding, but I am going to try to make it.
I appreciate that, sir.
Panama City Beach.
Oh, wow.
2.5 hours from any
Beautiful
airport.
place.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Still a flyover.
one more thing. Can you go over what happened with the first responders? Did you guys kick their butts and kickball?
Team administration did exactly that, sir.
So, was Sardinias got into that?
He was on team administration.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we
So you mean the firefighters lost?
we
Firefighters lost.
thoroughly
Embarrassed them?
thoroughly beat them.
Oh.
I understand they came in last.
Yeah.
I think, they came in last, and it was administration
Kickball.
versus police in the championship game.
But we beat the police twice.
We did.
Oh,
Right.
where's Chief Souza?
Out crying
That's
somewhere.
why they left. They knew we were
He
going to bring
left?
this up.
They had to go get their rest and sleep to come back next year.
You know, it was a fun event. It was really
For a
nice.
good cause.
Yeah.
well, to
We were
their
Toys for
credit, they
Tots.
sang better than administration.
They did.
That they did.
That they did.
They brought music too, which was pretty cool.
All right, thank you. Village Clerk, you got some items. Let's go.
The certification of general election results. May I have a motion to approve them?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the proposed 2025 Village Council meeting schedule, which is tab 20.
Okay. Mr. Manager, you have pressing items? we're giving the newbies a little bit of a break here. I don't, you know.
This is way
but-
too early. Can we make
but-
this go longer somehow?
Well, no.
We don't want 'em to get used
no,
to
but
this.
remember that tradition that we have that they each have to get up for 3 minutes and deliberate on all things civic in the island.
I think Councilmember Kaplan can be their example of how to do that. He's well versed on that. He is Mr. Civic. So, I think all the items in the manager's report are reports, and obviously they're there if there are any questions from the council. One thing I do want to say is that we do have our first installment payment for the Corps of Engineers Coastal Storm Risk Management Feasibility Study for $550,000. That is our portion of a $2.5 million initial portion of the study. So that is also one of the items in there as well. Our anticipation is that they will have what they call an agency technical review in February, and then a final decision meeting in April, where we will talk about, well, no, I don't want to say final, it's probably not a good word, interim decision.
Interim, yeah.
Interim decision at that point as to whether the benefit cost ratio is worthwhile to move forward.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order here?
The schedule.
Well, it's there. The schedule's there.
Is it approved as is?
Where is it?
It's on
Last
the back, in your back page.
Tab 20.
Tab 20?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Now, remember, we're able to, with a little bit of time, we're able to move a little bit of things around. Like, for example, the budget hearing, we might not be, it depends on when the county sets theirs, so, things like that.
Can, Mr. Mayor, is it time to request a move of a date, any chance? May 13th, if we can move it to farther up the month, like May 5th or something like that.
Well, just for you to understand, council member, one of the benefits is consistency, and these are set up as a second Tuesday.
That's fine. We'll
And
do
then also, but just, I want to make sure you understand the process. There's also approximately a 5-week process for us to create and develop an agenda, and also passing it through the attorney, so.
And we can participate by Zoom if necessary?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, as long as there's a quorum.
The conversation the mayor and I were having, whether it be the third week or second week, I think we settled on the second week. So I think
As long as we do it by Zoom, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Consensus of council to approve
Yep.
the schedule?
Yes.
Thank
Just
you.
real quick, I'll make it quick. I was caught off guard before, but I just wanted to say it's been an absolute honor serving with this council and serving the dais, and I really appreciate the vote of confidence of my colleagues to allow me to serve as vice mayor. I look forward to it.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that's it. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All right.